When God allows loneliness, it is never without purpose. Have you ever felt alone, even when you didn't expect to? If you have, listen carefully to this story until the very end. In a peaceful rural village, where dusty paths twisted between modest houses and open fields moved softly with the wind, lived an elderly woman named Martha. Her steps were slow, her voice calm, but her heart carried a warmth that seemed endless. Her home was small, built of old wood with a simple roof, yet anyone who entered felt an unexplainable sense of peace. Martha believed that God lived wherever love and kindness were practiced, and she made sure her home never lacked either. Once, her life was full of life and laughter. Her husband was a strong, joyful man who worked the land with pride and greeted each day with a smile. Their son, Daniel, was curious and energetic, always questioning the world and asking about God. Together, they worked their fields, shared simple meals, prayed before sleeping, and dreamed humble dreams. Martha often thanked God, not for riches or comfort, but for enough love, enough food, enough joy to feel whole. Then, one cold winter illness entered quietly. Her husband weakened with each passing day. Martha stayed by his side through countless nights, holding his hand, feeding him slowly, and whispering prayers she had learned long ago. Sometimes she begged God for healing. Other times, she simply asked God not to leave them alone. One early morning, her husband passed away. In that moment, the house felt unbearably large and painfully silent. Martha wept alone, covering her face, asking God why love could hurt so deeply. Yet, in the middle of her grief, she felt something unexpected, a gentle presence, as though God was reminding her that he had not gone anywhere. The silence hurt, but it was not empty. As time passed, Martha's body grew weaker. Her hands shook, her back bent from years of work. Still, she began each morning in prayer. She believed God gives strength only for today, not for tomorrow or the future beyond our sight. When Daniel grew older, he left the village to find work in the city. He promised to visit often. At first, he did. He returned with laughter, stories, and gifts that brought life back into the house. But slowly, his visits became shorter, then less frequent, until months passed without seeing him. Martha learned to eat her meals alone. She learned the sounds of the night wind and the quiet of empty rooms. Some evenings, loneliness pressed heavily on her heart, and she whispered softly, "Is this all that remains for me?" Yet, every morning, she still rose before sunrise, washed her face, lit her small lamp, folded her hands, and thanked God for another day. She never asked God to remove her loneliness. She only asked God to make her useful. Martha cooked simple meals, kept her home clean, and worked in her garden, where she felt closest to God, her hands touching the earth he created. Children passing by often stopped at her gate. She welcomed them with bread, fruit, and gentle stories. She listened carefully to their small fears and dreams, believing God listens the same way to every heart. Some villagers wondered why she gave so much while living alone. Martha would smile and say, "Loneliness is not empty when God is present." Even animals seemed drawn to her home. Birds rested on her roof. An old thin dog waited outside her door every day. Martha would gently pat its head and whisper, "God sends those who need love." One summer, Daniel returned from the city, exhausted and restless. He watched his mother serving others, giving away what little strength she had left. Confused, he said, "Mother, why do you work so hard? People will forget you. You should be resting." Martha looked at him kindly and replied, "My son, God has not forgotten me, and as long as I can give love, I am never alone." Daniel didn't understand. To him, loneliness meant failure. He believed a meaningful life was measured by noise, success, and crowds, not quiet service. That evening, a poor traveler knocked on the door asking for food. Martha welcomed him without hesitation. Before leaving, the man blessed her and said, "May God return your kindness when your strength is gone." Daniel heard the words, but their meaning had not yet reached his heart. As months passed, Martha's health declined. Her steps grew shorter, her nights felt longer. Sometimes loneliness returned, and tears fell freely. But instead of growing bitter, Martha prayed deeper. She trusted that God was shaping her heart in ways she could not yet understand. One winter, she became seriously ill. She could no longer stand or cook. When the villagers heard something unexpected happened, people came from everywhere. Women brought soup and medicine. Children sat by her bed, gently fanning her. Men stood outside her home, praying quietly. In that moment, Martha understood. None of her kindness had been wasted. God had saved it all. Daniel rushed home when he heard the news. Seeing the house filled with people caring for his mother, his heart finally opened. Sitting beside her bed, he cried and said, "Mother, you were never alone." Martha smiled weakly and whispered, God never takes love away, he only moves it. After she recovered, Daniel begged her to live with him in the city. Afraid of losing her, she prayed and felt peace. She knew God was opening a new chapter. City life was loud and crowded. Sometimes Martha felt lonely even among many people. One day, Daniel took her to an orphanage and asked if she would help there. Tears filled Martha's eyes. She cooked. She told stories. She prayed softly. She held children when they cried. They called her Grandma Martha. Her heart felt full in a new way. Years passed. Martha grew weaker, but her spirit stayed strong. When she passed away peacefully, children, neighbors, workers, and strangers gathered to honor her. Daniel stood quietly, finally understanding that his mother's lonely seasons were never empty. They were guided. And here is the lesson: when God allows loneliness, he is not punishing you. He is preparing you. He removes noise so you can hear love more clearly. He removes people so your heart can grow wider. If you feel lonely today, remember this: God may be shaping you into light for someone else. Love given through God never disappears. It only finds new places to live.